When I was very young, I, like many other little boys, I think, had anger issues. Even little things could set me off. One second I'd be fine, then my brother would poke fun of me, or a game wouldn't go my way, and boom, I was furious. I would yell and scream and say things I didn't mean. It was like I wasn't in control of myself in those moments. Like a wraith had possessed me and turned me into its puppet of fury. I've heard it called seeing red. I don't remember most of these outbursts. I was very young after all, but I do remember the feeling of the anger rising. The heat that would start in my belly and rage upwards through my chest until it flushed my face and put tears in my eyes. I remember that feeling because sometimes I still feel that anger in my belly. These days I can keep a lid on the pot, so to speak. I can calm the fire before it reaches my eyes, before it makes me see red. I'm glad my parents taught me how to keep calm, to control myself, even in anger, because seeing red is what gets you. Red is trouble. There's a bit of a joke about vehicles, that painting a car red makes it drive faster. You see a sports car and think, I bet that's fast. But if you see a red sports car, your first thought is, I bet that's really fast. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything witty for the second line of dialogue there, so that's all you're going to get, I suppose. There's also a myth that if you drive a red car, you're more likely to get pulled over by the police. When doing research for this video, I tried to find any evidence of this, but all I could find was Pronto Insurance saying you're more likely to be pulled over for, quote, driving unsafely, end quote, rather than the color of your car. Yeah, sure. I bet that's what they want you to think. They say that, but later in the article, they claim that red is the second most common car color to be pulled over, despite red cars only making up 5% of total cars on the road. So, who knows what to think at this point? I don't know if there is any actual evidence that the color red makes you have a speed boost or not. I sure couldn't find any. But fire trucks don't seem to mind. They know they need all the help they can get. You know you're having a bad day when you see the fire truck pull up to the front of your house. Maybe the worst day. But you know the fire truck isn't the trouble. I'd imagine that seeing red is a bit more relieving when it could mean salvation. Have you ever heard of the inviting red door? My mom sent me an article she found in one of her home improvement magazines while I was preparing to write this script. It talked about the history of the inviting red door. According to the magazine, and further research online, a door painted red meant that a home was a sanctuary for runaway slaves on the Underground Railroad during the Civil War. A fugitive on the run north knew that someone would help them if the color of their door was red. Imagine that. The fear of knowing that almost no one would help you if you were found. The danger of trusting even a single stranger, not knowing where to go, stumbling through the dark, then seeing it. A vibrant red door. The history of a red door providing refuge goes even further back, though. In even earlier American history, a red door meant that a home would be happy to provide shelter and safety to wary travelers on horseback. In ancient China, red doors brought luck and prosperity. Red is thought to be so lucky that it could ward off evil spirits. Church doors were painted red in the medieval period as a symbol of sanctuary. If a person was being hunted down by nearly anyone, they need only make it through the colorful threshold to ensure safety. No one dared to attack others on church grounds. It was also meant to remind of the shed blood that forgives sin in Christianity. In this case, red actually seems to be getting you out of trouble. Around that same time, the color red was seen as a bit high and mighty anyways. Wearing the color was a status symbol. Having it on was essentially the same as saying, I'm important and or wealthy. Usually and. The dye for red clothing at the time was known as Kermes dye. Kermes. Wikipedia describes the color as a rich red. Crimson. Kind of ironic, actually. Apparently it's very resistant to fading. It gets its name due to how the dye is harvested. Kermes dye is created using the dried bodies of scale insects, specifically of the genus Kermes. The name makes a little more sense now, eh? The females of this little bug have no legs and rely on a host plant's sap to sustain themselves, and these are the ones that are harvested when it comes to dye making. Seems to be quite an enjoyable existence. Speaking of female insects, I can think of one that has it a bit better off. The ladybug. Okay, yes, I know not all ladybugs are, well, ladies. Some are young and prefer to be called girls. But ladybugs are lucky. It's said that if one of these little red fellows lands on you, that good things are on the way. There are a few different origins for this belief, but the coolest one is the one that's proven to be true. When gardening, or farming if you garden extremely well, ladybugs bring not only luck to your plants, but also protection from pests. Ladybugs, while they sport a cute look, are actually quite ferocious. They spend their time clinging to leaves, resting at daytime or when it's too cold, and perhaps, most interestingly, eating other insects, specifically the kind that damage crops. It's like Mother Nature created them to be its own version of pest control. So when you're gardening out back and you see one of these little guys, you know your yield will be lucky. Two major holidays, at least here in America, come to mind when thinking of red. And while one of them, for sure, comes with a lot of trouble, Valentine's Day, of course, the other comes with a lot of good memories. Christmas is my favorite holiday. I know. Boo, basic choice. Don't get me wrong, I like Halloween a lot, and Thanksgiving is okay, I guess. But what can I say? I do love presents. The time with family and the sledding out back from the dorm with a bunch of friends and the merry spirit aren't so bad either, I suppose. The reddest part of Christmas is, of course, the big man himself, Mr. S. Claus. I've never met the man, but I've heard many good things about the jolly old chap. His red-on-red outfit really shows what he's about, I think. Last Christmas, I went with my family to see my baby nephew have his meeting with Santa. I remember how bitterly cold it was. There was a huge line of kids with their families. And when we first got there, all I could think was why exactly we needed to meet the geezer when he sees us while we're sleeping. Seems like we're pretty close already. Soon I was noticing something else, though. Every kid was smiling. Okay, maybe only the ones old enough to be capable of logical thought, but that was still the majority. Here we were, standing in the freezing cold, and so many people were happy to be here. To see an old man in a red hat. I think it's because that hat made the kids hopeful. I wonder if there were any mischievous kids in the line that day. Some that were hoping when they saw that red hat they could make it on the nice list, regardless of how naughty they had been. I know I probably didn't deserve to be on any nice lists when I was that young. I had the unbridled anger, remember? The kind that could seize a hold of me. I was always ashamed of that anger. I hated seeing red. Seeing red get you into trouble so quickly. It's very strange that in some cases of trouble, in burning trouble, and in running trouble, and in harvesting trouble, and in mischievous trouble, sometimes seeing red can get you back out.